TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group. Today is Thursday, July 24th, and we have a great show for you today. Our guest is a repeat offender, Dave Cavell, the strategic consultant of the Brookline Community Development Corporation. And in an interview recorded just a few days ago, stay tuned and you will hear us talk about what the BCDC has been up to on Beacon Street, on Boylston Street, and perhaps what it may be involved in on William Street. Stay tuned, all sorts of interesting things. But first, as always, we begin with the news. The United States will officially withdraw from the United Nations Cultural and Educational Agency, UNESCO. The decision continues President Trump's drive to withdraw from global bodies. Visitors to the United States will soon be required to pay a new visa integrity fee of $250. The fee will apply to all visitors who obtain a non-immigrant visa. House Republican leaders canceled votes for today and sent members home for a month-long recess as the Epstein files continue to divide the Republican caucus. The Massachusetts Governor's Council continues to work through judicial vacancies, receiving nominations for 2 new Superior Court nominees and a new juvenile court judge. The statewide unemployment rate remained flat at almost 5% in June, about 1/8 of a point higher than June 2024. Single-family home sales went up 5% across Massachusetts in June, with the median prices up 3% over the same time last year. The Brookline Transportation Board recommended extending the bus-only lane pilot near Brookline Village for another 6 months to allow the town and MBTA to continue collecting data. The school committee appointed Robin Benoit, a science teacher and middle school administrator, to serve as the district's interim deputy superintendent of teaching and learning. The town is moving toward a plan to purchase solar panels for the Driscoll School before the federal tax incentive for clean energy projects are eliminated by the Trump administration. Folks, that's the news as best I can tell. I hope you will stay tuned for an interview recorded just a few days ago with Dave Cavell, the strategic consultant for the Brookline Community Development Corporation. Stay tuned right here on Brookline Interactive Group. And welcome back to TV on TV, right here on Brookline Interactive Group. I'm Tommy Vitolo. More importantly, our guest today is Dave Cavell, a repeat offender on the show. Dave,
Very
thanks
true.
for coming back.
Tommy, I had to think twice, but I decided it was worth it just for you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
This is why I make the money I make filming this show, because I can not get guests once, but get them back. Right, Dave?
And I make just as much as a guest of this show as I imagine you do filming it.
Well, I understand you did land yourself a real paying job. You're the what do we call the executive consultant.
Correct.
Brookline Community Development Corporation. And before I ask what the hell that means, you got to remind us, who are you and what have you been doing your whole life?
Right. It's a good question. I ask myself that all the time. The answer is some of you may recognize me. The last time I was on this program, I was running for Congress to be our representative. And as you may be aware, I did not win that race, but I'm a lifelong Brookline resident, grew up on Monmouth Court in North Brookline with my mother, Kathleen Cavell, and my father, of blessed memory, Stanley Cavell. It's wonderful to still be here. My mom has been in town meeting for longer than she would want me to mention, but so Brookline politics has been in my blood. I've known you, Tommy, since I was, I believe, in high school, which dates us both. And ever since about 2000, I did Teach for America when I graduated Tufts, and ever since about 2007, I've worked mostly in Democratic politics. So I've had the chance to work for Governor Deval Patrick when he was our governor. I then went to Washington and worked for President Barack Obama and wrote speeches for him and First Lady Michelle Obama. Came back here, and 2 weeks after leaving the White House, I was suing the White House as Assistant Attorney General with Maura Healey when she was AG. And then in the last administration, I was back in DC. I was Vice President Kamala Harris's chief speechwriter, and I was the chief spokesperson for the Biden administration on international climate. So a lot of fun stuff, quite a mouthful, but that's what I've been up to in a nutshell.
Well, you're back in town as the executive consultant for the BCDC, the Brookline Community Development Corporation, to
Yep.
channel a movie that kids these days aren't watching. What would you say you do there?
Well, look, if kids these days aren't watching Office Space, they're making a mistake. So if this interview serves no other purpose, let it be to recommend the movie Office Space. Um, but yeah, so what I would say I do here, I will not say the first thing that came to mind, which is whatever Deborah Brown tells me to do. For those of you who know Deborah Brown, who's our board chair. But the answer is the Brookline CDC is Brookline's only community development corporation. So what does that mean? Well, we create and preserve green, affordable housing in Brookline. So what that primarily means is that there are two properties in Brookline. There's one at 1017 Beacon Street, and there's another one that's just outside Brookline Village on Boylston / Route 9, 154 to 156 Boylston. And this organization houses people there who are low income and need affordable housing. And so we do that. We also provide emergency rental assistance to people in need and advocate for affordable housing and good policy. And my job as executive consultant is to make sure all of that is happening, make sure all of our reporting is done in a timely fashion, to talk to folks like you, Tommy, when there are urgent needs that come up, like a permit is needed for a certain project, or we have a question about how to do something the right way. And sometimes you know the answer. And in general, to meet with the board and represent the organization, including on great programs like this one.
And on lesser programs, should you be invited? You know, I think it can be confusing to people. BCDC, BHA, right? Brookline Community Development
Yes,
Corporation, Brookline Housing Authority, neither of which are town government organizations.
that's right.
So you're a nonprofit
We're a 501c3 nonprofit. That's correct.
and you're not the BHA,
No, we're not.
which also seems to do affordable housing.
Right. Right. Well, it's a little bit like when I worked for the Attorney General's office, and people were always asking, now, wait, there's a US attorney, there's an attorney general, and there's a district attorney. We have all of these attorneys. And I would have to say, unfortunately, yes, you do. And you're right. It's very well, not to mention, Tommy, that there's also something else called the Brookline Community Foundation, BCF, which we are also not. So I can understand people's confusion.
You know, it's no surprise we've got so many positions for attorneys since so many legislators are in fact attorneys, right?
I'm not a legislator, but I am an attorney. So
Yeah, and I'm a legislator and not an attorney.
right,
So
exactly. So the two of us
together,
combined would really be a great stereotype.
I'm telling you. Are the rumors true that it was in fact your participation in COP 26 and COP 29 that led to the Boylston and Beacon Street green retrofits for those projects?
That's absolutely right. And I assume every single person who is watching this program knows exactly what we're talking about right now. But for anybody who one day down the road watches this and doesn't know what that means, I had the honor to be a diplomat on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration and on behalf of America at the biggest global conference, one of the biggest global conferences in the world every year, which is about climate and clean energy, and about every country in the world trying to get together to prevent the heating of our planet and to supercharge the clean energy industry. I got to go in 2001 in Scotland, in Glasgow, with John Kerry, our former senator, and I went again last year to Baku in Azerbaijan. Which was not on my bucket list, but I ended up spending 3 weeks there and worked to hammer out agreements with other countries in the world to try to do right by by our obligations on climate to save this planet. Now, the good news, Tommy, is that the watchword there has always been think globally, but act locally. And so, actually, I do think that the work that we did in the Biden administration, passing $1 trillion investment in infrastructure, passing the largest climate investment of all time in the Inflation Reduction Act, those funds, actually, to your question, surprisingly, the answer to your question is I'm not sure that I take responsibility for it, but I do think that Vice President Harris and President Biden can take some credit for it, because those funds are part of why the Brookline CDC has been able to engage in something that just required you to put on a hard hat and pick up a shovel, which is break ground to totally renovate the heating and cooking systems at these properties to make us, I believe, the first CDC in Massachusetts to be 100% green and sustainable. So the projects are ongoing. They will be finished early next year in 2026.
Well, let's take them one at a time. So let's start with
Yeah.
Boylston Street. It's 154, 156 Boylston. If you're
Correct.
looking at Old Lincoln School, Pierce Lower, it's like 2 doors to the left.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right. And so tell us about that building and give us a sense for the transition it's making in the heating systems, cooling systems, and so forth.
Yeah, so some of this work you won't be able to see because it's internal, right? And part of what we're doing. These are units that, if you from the outside, you can probably tell there are a few stories. There's families that live in these 6 units at this property, and the point of this work is to, as Brookline has been a leader, thanks in part to your efforts, Representative, from a number of years now on climate and clean energy solutions. And one of those obligations is to continue to be on the cutting edge when it comes to heating systems, which contribute a lot of carbon emissions. And one of the best ways to address that is installing heating pumps, electric heating pumps, which are a different way. Instead of oil or gas or the old fossil fuel systems, there's a new, cleaner way to be able to heat and cool homes. In addition, there's other things you can do, like replacing windows, which we're doing, upgrading doors, basically reducing the amount of leaking that goes out of the units so that you don't need to use the heating and cooling systems as much. So all of those things are happening. And what people will be able to see from the outside is this is going to involve new windows that are beautiful, new trim around those windows, and better siding for the building. So it's going to look better. But it's also going to function better as well for the residents. And it's going to give them a much better experience when they move back in a couple months.
Yeah. And so, I can't help it. I'm going to point out, right? If you live there, you live next to a busy road. It's
Correct.
not going to be quite as loud as it
That's
used
right.
to be. You're not going to have as much intake of that exhaust as you used to, right? So from just sort of a health and welfare perspective of the tenants, there's an improvement. The other thing is, we've had some hot days, hotter than New England is used to.
Correct.
Heat pumps are also, by definition, air conditioners. And so it will allow folks living in these units to not suffer terrible heat. Some of us still are in our homes. Not everybody is air conditioning, but it
Right.
is becoming more and more common in this part of the country because it's just so dang hot a few days of the year. And so these tenants will get that. And then for your organization, you're paying some of these utility bills, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so now you're paying less.
And the bill, and basically this is not just good for our organization, but as a 501c3, as an organization that gets funding from the town of Brookline, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and from the federal government. Well, everybody watching this should also be celebrating, because what this means is taxpayer expenses are going to be lower. That we're not going to need as much assistance from the town to heat and cool these homes. And to your point, Tommy, which is a really important one, part of why Brookline has been on the cutting edge of reducing carbon emissions, and especially when it comes to gas stoves, is that especially for young children, you're inhaling fumes that are not great for you when you're using a gas-fired stove. And so for the residents of these units, some of whom do have young children, this is going to be an immediate improvement in the air quality within their homes, both from the street and from their stoves. So it's a win really for everybody here, for the tenants, for the organization, and for the people of Brookline.
And it also, you've got to maintain these buildings. They're old buildings. Every chance you get to bring some of the systems up to modern standards, to make sure you're not
Right.
getting water infiltration, to get a chance to look under the hood and make sure you don't have a rot. All of these things help maintain the life of the building. So there, it's a great project. Um, Boylston Street is a wooden kind of twin, sort of like a twin triple decker.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
night,
That's what people should picture.
1017 Beacon Street's a brick sort of townhouse at Lower Beacon, very different kind
Correct.
of building. Also, different kind of residence. So walk us through that project. Maybe some things that are different than the Boylston Street project, some other considerations.
Right. So it is different. You're absolutely right. So people should be picturing, multi-bedroom units on Boylston Street. On Beacon Street, these are more single rooms that individuals are living in on Beacon Street. There's communal kitchens in this property. And it's managed with our partner for many years, Pine Street Inn, who has somebody there during the day who helps make sure that the property is being cared for, that there's regular cleaning services that come in. But when the principles are the same, Tommy, right? You have a beautiful old brick townhouse, but it's an old brick townhouse, and that means that the facade work needs love and care every few years. It also means that it's hard to keep it hot and it's hard to cool it. And so the improvements at Beacon Street are going to be very similar. We're going to install heat pumps. We're going to replace windows. We're going to improve the insulation in the back wall. And so in every way, the residents at Beacon Street are going to benefit in the same way that the residents on Boylston Street are going to benefit. And knocking these two projects out at the same time means that by early next year, as I said, the residents of these properties are both going to live in state-of-the-art facilities that are going to be an example to the rest of Massachusetts.
It's really quite something. I want to talk about 16 William Street. For folks who don't know,
Sure.
right in Coolidge Corner, it is like a Victorian that was converted to SROs, single room occupancies. It's not owned by the BCDC. It's owned by a nonprofit who, frankly, is selling it to be able to build many more units like that, not too many miles from here. They're sort of getting out of the business of this particular building. It looks like the status quo outcome is it'll be converted into a couple of luxury condominiums, but there's a movement to say, wait a minute, these are low-cost housing options for particular individuals who otherwise don't have a place to go, certainly not in Brookline. There's been a lot of conversation about finding an organization or organizations, one or more sources of money to kind of keep it something similar to what it's used for now, which is single room occupancy for adults who don't need a lot of space to live in, don't have a lot of money, but also want to be outside from the rain. Does BCDC have a role in this?
So we do, and there's some I can say. There's some that I probably shouldn't say, just because this is an active, ongoing process that folks in Brookline are going to hear about. So I said at the beginning, BCDC's goal is to preserve green, affordable housing in Brookline, which is what we were just talking about. But our goal is to also create green, affordable housing in Brookline, and that's what this is about. So you're right, Tommy. This property is going on the market, and because of the way that it's owned and operated, the town got the right of first refusal. The town got the right to say, well, instead of just selling this to a developer and having the developer buy it for $3 million and put some luxury units here, what if we wanted to maintain these units as they are? What if we wanted to continue to have people of low income or other needs in these units to maintain affordable housing in Brookline? And so that's the opportunity that we're engaged in right now. We have been a participant in the meetings with the Housing Advisory Board, and we've submitted a proposal. This is a very early stage proposal, but the proposal basically says the town of Brookline asked for proposals, asked for people who weren't just luxury developers to tell us what they could tell Brookline, what could we do with this property? And so that's what we did. We put in a proposal that basically says, well, we think that we could, like we've done in Boylston Street, like we've done it at Beacon Street. BCDC has been around since 1980. we've done this for a long time. So we said, well, why don't we take a look at this property? Why don't we see, what condition it's in and what condition these units are in, and whether there's a way to preserve this for its purpose, which for many years has been on William Street, to make sure that we can continue to be a livable community for lots of different kinds of folks. And it's been great to see the neighborhood has really been behind us here. As you know, Tommy, a lot of neighbors want to preserve Brookline the way that it has been for many, many years, which is, again, a place where many different kinds of families can live and make their home. So that's the process that we're engaged in. We have to figure out the details. The devil is always in the details with these big complicated projects, but there's a lot of money out there and a lot of support out there for these kinds of projects from the town, from the state, and from other sources.
So I think the BCDC a couple of years ago was on a really shaky foundation with its financing, with aging buildings, and it got reinvigorated, and it looks like it's in much better shape. I'm not an auditor. I take the word, but it sure seems like financially it's on better footing. There's investment in the buildings. Some of the loans have been refinanced and reworked. But fundamentally, you lose money on every tenant. You can't make it up in volume, right? What is the future for BCDC? How does BCDC not just land these two current projects, 154, 156, Boylston, and 1017 Beacon, and maintain them, but grow in a business where you lose money on every tenant?
Right. Well, it's a great question, and it's why the two words that I use with the board and with anybody that I'm talking to about BCDC, the two words are sustainability and growth. Because to the first part of your question, Tommy, this organization has been around since 1980. We want it to be around until 2080 and well beyond. Right. So the first most important objective of the organization has to be sustainable. And by the time your viewers watch this, they'll be able to go on our website, I hope, and see a press release about the refinancing closing that we just engaged in. This is a multi-month process with Rockland Trust, our banker, and many others, that has resulted in real long-term financial stability, and a large amount of cash reserves, and really a very good financial picture for BCDC. It's really exciting and a testament to a lot of hard work by people like Michael Alperin and many others. And at the same time, we don't just want to provide these two properties. To your point, Tommy, we don't. Our goal is to help as many people as possible afford to live in Brookline. And so to do that, we're going to need to acquire and manage future properties. And so that's why the funding is out there. That's why the fund that we used to fund the renovations that we were just talking about, the green retrofits. It's not like we just dug in our pockets for that money. This is work that the federal government used to support. This is work that the state does support, and it's work that the town does support as well, as in addition to individual donors and people of means in Brookline. And because this is a priority for so many people, we're able to get funds from various sources in Brookline and outside of Brookline to make this work possible, to make this work sustainable, and really to make sure that we can continue to do what we were founded to do all those decades ago, which is make sure that people can live in Brookline. And so, whether it's William Street or other properties, that's what we're going to continue to focus on and do so in a responsible way.
You certainly got you have plenty of work ahead of you.
You've noticed, yeah.
This is tough stuff, right? It's not like real estate's getting cheaper or the price of steel is getting cheaper. So it's hard to figure out sort of, and you can't own a tenth of a property, right? Like you have two, going from 2 to 3 is a big change.
Right.
Maybe you can pull it off with 16 Williams. Maybe it's something else. You alluded briefly to BCDC doing things above and beyond owning and maintaining housing.
Yeah.
We got a couple of minutes left. Tell us a little bit about some of the other things BCDC does, at least sometimes, if not all the time.
Right. Well, the first thing that I definitely want to mention is emergency rental assistance. So there are people in Brookline and in the region who are having trouble making their rent, and we want to know about them. We've been able to acquire some funds to help people bridge those gaps. They have to fill out forms and paperwork and let us know that they're having difficulty meeting their rental payments or their mortgage payments, whatever it may be. Um, and then we're able to talk to those people. We're able to see if they qualify for the programs that we have and the funds that we have. And then we're able to help those people out to keep them in their home. Again, that's the point of this organization. So in addition to that, we do advocacy for other good programs. We meet and provide counseling to people who need affordable housing. We're working to establish aging in place programs so that people who currently live in Brookline and have for many years can continue to stay here. And what I would say just at the end of this, Tommy, is there are a lot of ways to support this work. For people who are sitting at home and thinking to themselves, geez, that sounds cool. I didn't know that this existed, and I want to get involved. Go to brooklinecdc.com, learn about what we do, see if you can be a part of it. We need volunteers, we need people to donate, and there's a wonderful program through the state called the Community Investment Tax Credit, which allows you for a donation of $1,000 or more to get half of that back as forgiveness on your taxes. So there are really so many programs that are available for people who are interested and available to help us to get involved. And we would love people's support, whether it's tenant advocacy, whether it's policy advocacy, whether it's thought partnership, whether it's marketing materials and designing logos and t-shirts, all that good stuff, toy drives at the holidays. We're here for all of it.
Love it. Dave, we're out of time. I'm not surprised we had no trouble filling up the time. But unfortunately, what with these budget cuts, we only have 25 minutes for the show.
Yeah, right.
Worth every penny. Folks, we just had a great chat with Dave Cavell, the executive consultant of the Brookline Community Development Corporation. This episode and every other are available on brooklineinteractive.org, as well as my website, and you're welcome to figure out how to find that. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You've been watching Brookline Interactive Group TV on TV. It's all the rage. We'll see you next week.